You expressed your concern about Vladimir Kara-Murza in your opening testimony, and Senator Menendez talked about the Americans who are unjustly detained as well in Russia. What can you do as ambassador to help keep attention on those unjust detentions, and what can we do to try and continue to urge Russia to release people who are being held?
Senator Shaheen, thank you. I think there are public and private aspects to what we can be doing, and I think publicly the kinds of efforts that we're seeing from members of this committee, other members of Congress, to keep a spotlight on political prisoners, political activists who've been unjustly jailed, as well as our detained American citizens, that the public spotlight is so important so that they do not feel forgotten, because I think that can happen in isolation. You know, one of the most inspiring and early experiences that I had with this kind of a situation was actually when I was working at the embassy in Moscow in the late 1980s. Secretary Shultz visited and championed the refuseniks, the divided families. He made a point of meeting with them. I had the good fortune to backbench on one of those meetings and seeing the comfort, the hope that families took from that, even as they remained divided or were being refused exit privileges, was for me just such a clear point of understanding on the importance of this public spotlight. Privately, I commit to this committee that this will be a part of my ongoing conversation with Russian officials, that this will never go unsaid, the importance of the release of the wrongfully detained, of the need for appropriate consular access for our American citizens, and for the release of the political opposition who, as I said, have been unjustly detained.
Thank you. This week, Russia walked away from continued negotiations around New START, and given Vladimir Putin's rhetoric that heightens the nuclear threat because of the war in Ukraine, can you talk about how we should think about future efforts to reduce weapons with Russia?
Senator, I think first of all, in looking at New START, the focus of the administration has been on resuming inspections under the treaty. It's not a gift to Russia, it's a right that we have for treaty implementation, and those inspections are very important. Obviously, Russia receives some of those same rights, but I think this can be one avenue of at least verification. It's hard to talk about trust in the current climate, but I think having some ability to agree on the inspections for the verification is one measure that we can continue to pursue, and I believe the administration, which was ready to meet to talk about resuming inspections, is still prepared to do. We see that the treaty as an instrument of stability. I think the other approach here that is so very important is that we have very clear communications with the highest levels of the Russian government to reinforce what President Biden has already said, which is that the use of nuclear weapons would bring severe consequences and extremely irresponsible. And I think that having that clear channel of communication so that there are no misunderstandings, no misperceptions is what is absolutely needed right now.
You have a very difficult challenge ahead. Any ambassador to Russia would at this time, because on the one hand, it's important for future relationships to maintain that open channel of communication with Russia. On the other hand, we need to condemn their outrageous behavior in the war in Ukraine, the obvious war crimes that are being committed, the disinformation, the hostile activities that they're engaging in the United States and Europe and other parts of the world. So help me understand how you walk that fine line, and how do you raise those concerns while at the same time trying to keep an open channel of communication?
Senator, I faced some of these same difficulties when I was the deputy chief of mission in Moscow, and I found it very important to be professional and to be prepared in these conversations with Russian officials, but to also be frank and candid. And I think there's a way to do that that, as I said, it can be effective in ensuring that there are not misperceptions. But it isn't easy, having had that seat, as I said, as the deputy. You know, publicly, I think we have a lot of tools through our public diplomacy platform, our social media tools, to publicly be messaging about all the concerns that we have, and to shine a light, to expose the untold suffering that Russia has inflicted on Ukraine. I think that is absolutely necessary so that there is no question about it. But this is a tough environment. It's tough to sometimes penetrate through the propaganda when people have been drinking Kool-Aid for a long time. You know, it's hard to get them to take water. But I think we have to keep trying there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.